Where do I even start? I have a story that most people probably think is off-putting and crazy, but it has nothing to do with any scary or terrifying events. And like I said, most people probably think this is really strange how it actually happened. This actually happened about 6 months ago. My name is Derek, and I'm about 22 years old. And this happened, like I said, about 6 months ago when my dad actually got remarried to his new wife, Lauren. Well, the thing is about Lauren. Well, I will get to that, but I will give you at least a brief backstory about my dad and me. My dad single-handedly raised me on his own. You may ask, what about my mom? Well, the sadly is that she died during childbirth. My dad took it very hard, but luckily though, he was an amazing father. He took care of me most of his own, but my grandparents from both sides of families helped him much as he could. And I'm really grateful for my dad to have been able to take care of me so many times. I may wondered if there had been any times if my dad has had any thoughts of giving me up for adoption or anything. I did ask him that once, and he said, that idea never crossed my mind, he said. I don't think he even did, because he told me that he made a deep promise to my late mom that he will raise me no matter what happens. And he did. Sure, we did had some argues and when I was growing up as a teenager or something like that. But but deep down I loved him. I cared about my dad. He was always there for me. Even at the time when I was like 10 years old when I broke my arm by accident, he rushed to the hospital after he was at work when he found out. He was terrified he had lost the only other connection to my mom, but he was just happy it was just a broken arm and nothing much serious. There are a lot of things that he did for me while I was growing up. I was really happy, but there were some times when I was in middle school and even high school, for a short time in high school at least, that I was bullied for being raised by my own dad, that my mom was no longer around. There were some rumors when I was in high school that my mom left my dad because some stupid reasons, like he either was cheating on my mom or my mom left him because she fell in love with someone else, which I always got angry about. It was times that I was really close to starting a fight with those bullies. But I remember my dad told me it's not worth to fight for something like this, stupid. Even though I did end up in a fight at least once. But that was a time when he told me not to do that again. I didn't get the attention because I was a good student. I studied hard, get mostly A's or B's, but I told the bullies the main reason why my dad raised me on his own. It had nothing to do with my mom left him or anything. It's because she died during giving birth to me. After that, they always stopped. But that was the least about my background of my childhood. Now, as a 22-year-old, I'm living on my own. I've been working for a while now. And no, I didn't go to college or anything since I have no intention to do that. But anyways, about 6 months ago, my dad actually gave me a call about something. This was like how the call went. Hey dad, it's not out of the blue. Do you need something? Hey Derek, well, do you have any plans for the weekend? No, nothing is planned like this so far. Do you want me to come over or something like that? Yes, I'm actually, I have some big news for you. And is it possible you can come over on Saturday, like 5 p.m. for dinner? Sure. I will be there. Great. So I went to my dad's home around 5 p.m. on Saturday. He had actually all prepared the dinner, so he told me just wait in the living room because he was going to get something. So I was like wondering what this big surprise could have been. It was something like that he won the lottery because if it done, he would have told me already. But when he actually walked back in the living room, but the plot twist is he wasn't even alone. Next to him stood a young woman. I had to guess maybe 25 or 24. And he said, Derek, let me introduce you to Lauren. She is going to be your new stepmom. I was dumbfounded. I mean, my dad, he was in his, like in his, like in his early 50s. And next to him stood a woman who could be around my age. I was like, Dad, are you serious? He looked at me and said, Yeah. Um, I was like, Dad, how long have you two been dating? About a year now. A year? And that's the thing. Throughout that entire year, my dad never even mentioned Lauren at all. I was like, what? I mean, if we had dated someone, you normally would introduce your dating partner at some point. But the thing is, my dad was probably busy too much with work, and but the times when I went over just to see him or for dinner or like something like that, he never even brought up the topic of him dating someone at all. I was dumbfounded, and even he could see the look on my face, like, oh, I can see what you were thinking about. Why I'm dating right now? I never told you. Well, it's just that I felt a little bit embarrassed. So, can I ask, how did you two even meet? Oh, we actually met at work. And that's the thing. My dad works at this furniture store, and Lauren was a new hire as a salesperson. I was really surprised, but he told me during dinner that first they were just since he was been working there for much longer than Lauren has, so he was like being assigned to her as a trainer, just to showing how things works and how to take care of the customers. And after work, they usually went out for drinks or just grab a bite, something like that. But eventually, Lauren confessed to my dad that she liked him, despite the age gap. And I was like, do the most of your coworkers knows about this? Both said, yeah, they all know about it. And does anyone else, like your friends, your parents, for example? My dad said they already knew. I was like, so you told my grandparents about you two been dating over a year, but why did you even tell your own son? I was a little bit upset about this because me and dad have been always been close. There was no secrets between us. I always told them that I had a crush on someone back in school, or if I liked a friend or anything, or if I had to go through a heartbreak. But this was really the most shocking. Dad, so you have been dating Lauren for a whole year but never told me? Why? I mean, we had always been open about our secrets and our any vices, but this is really surprising, and even from you. My dad knew for a fact that I was getting upset, but also heartbroken about this. Like, that he didn't trust me. His own son. but he told the reason. Well, you see, this is main reason why I even told you. The fact that she is close to your own age, she's only like 2 years older than you, and I understand you would even not, wouldn't probably even accept her as your stepmom. I mean, and even ask, why in the world did my dad dating someone who's almost like twice as young as her, as me? He said almost a joke. And Lawrence said, I know there's a lot of taking in. It's, but I really love your dad as much. And I understand if you may not even want, never accept me as your new mom. And I would never even replace you, your original mom, at all. I just want to be close to your dad. He has always been care about me. But then I asked Lauren, since my grandparents knows about you two been dating, but what about your own parents? Your family? Do they even know? Lauren said with a sigh, they know. And at first they didn't accept at all. I mean, since your dad is in his early 50s and I is like in my mid 20s, and they had the same reaction as you. But when he was introduced to your grandparents to me, they had the same reaction, but they thought maybe it was time for him to move on. I mean, he has been single for all this time. He never even thought of even give much a thought of dating anyone else other from you and from your mom. That actually hit me because I realized throughout my entire childhood, my dad single-handedly raised me, never even bothered to even to find another woman to be with. I even at least tried to ask him that once when I was in high school, but he always told me that he was too busy to taking care of me and work. But I told him then that I'm almost 18 years old. I can take care of basically things on my own, like cleaning, cooking, all that stuff. It was a lot of information to process, for sure of it. But then I looked at Lauren and I asked, Lauren, how did your parents take it at all? Lauren actually gave a big sigh and said, at first, not so well. They told me it was not going to work due to the fact of the big age gap. I mean, my dad told me it was like I would be dating someone in my own dad's age. And I said, that's understanding. I mean, I don't judge for any of that. But have they even accepted at this point? Well, I mean, at first they was not much accepted at all. But after we recently told them about our engagement, they were like stunned that if we were even still together. But after they saw me, how happy I were, and even after they have met your dad a couple of times and how he treated me so well, they first thought that I was only after his money or anything, but I proved them wrong. And after they seen how kind he was to me, and they knew about you and about your mom's tragic past, so they started to accept it, and now they are actually full supporting all it. So we wanted you to be there at our wedding as well, said Lauren. I was really not surprised of that question, but my dad then jumped in the conversation and said, Lauren, it's probably best to give Derek some time to think all this. And she understood because this was a lot of information. I mean, I was just still processing that my dad had been dating a woman is just around the same age as me, only like she's only 2 years older, for a whole year without even telling me. And now they're engaged? But I asked if they set a date for their wedding yet. They had said sometimes in the summer, but exact date had not been set yet, only sometime in the summer. So that gave me at least some time to come up with an answer. So we enjoyed the rest of dinner, and after I get home, I thought about this. I even asked some of my friends from high school, like some of, even include my best friend Eric, how to even to process all this. And he was equally stunned all about this of himself. Eric said, "So your dad been dating someone who is close to our age for a year, but not telling you about it? Sounds about right," I said. But Eric then said, "Since my dad had been taking care of me for my entire childhood, without paying attention to focus on dating anyone else during time, and now that he finally found someone, despite the big age gap, he was truly happy. And he asked me if I really want to be against the whole his true happiness. I was like blanked to say, no, I will never be against my dad's happiness. I will always be there for him, no matter what happens. And since he has spent his entire life just like he looked after me, now he deserves to be happy." So I told him that. And a couple of days later, I actually went back to see my dad, and since Lauren and my dad had already been living together for about a year now, they were actually happy to see me. So I told them that I have been thinking all about the process, which both actually had understood, since there was a lot of them to handle the process. I mean, my dad is 50, dating someone who's in his early mid-20s. Makes total sense, doesn't it? But I did mention this to dad. I had talked to Eric, and he knows who it is, since he's my best friend. And I also thought much about this since he took care of me this entire time without being seeing anyone else. And now, since I have moved out and started working, he truly deserves someone to make him happy. So, I give them my full support in their relationship and their engagement. Lauren was actually happy to have me as her stepson. But the thing then, I asked both her and my dad, so, should I call her my mom, stepmom, or just Lauren? Both looked at each other and laughed and said, "Well, that's a big question," said Lauren. "Well, I mean, do you even feel comfortable to call me your mom despite being almost so close in age?" I felt maybe a little bit embarrassed, but I felt I would call her mom despite, and even it might give me some looks. Even despite all of this support from me, but there were some questionings from other extended families, my other close friends to both my dad and my new mom. But as long as I was happy to them, they were happy. Then in June, that particular same year, we actually had their wedding. And since my dad was just standing by the altar, I was be the best man to my dad, but also, well, it was a big surprise since there were a lot of invited guests, including my best friend Eric, but you can only guess how many people that were there. But seeing this big age gap between the bride that is in her mid-20s and the groom in his early 50s was a big difference. But truly though, it might have been a little bizarre in some people's mind, but even though I still have been new to all this, but afterwards, I actually started accepting Lauren as my new mom. But even though I never actually met my biological mother, even though I had seen her photo of her, how beautiful she was, she always be my mom. But Lauren, she told me that she would never be replacing her place as my mom, but I told her not to worry. She will be my mom despite the age gap. And well, I was just happy to be able to have a mom in my life, even though it was over 20 years later. But my dad, he was actually just really happy to be with the one that he loved the most now. And there was another thing about that event during the wedding reception party that both my dad and Lauren did mention that shocked everyone. And the big surprise was that the fact my dad and Lauren were in fact waiting their first baby. She was only about a month pregnant at the time of the wedding, and I was like, what? I was gonna be not only getting a stepmom, but also a new sibling. This is amazing. And I promised myself and to my parents that I will be the best big brother ever I can be. I mean, when I find out that I was gonna be a brother, I was over the moon. I have always wanted a sibling, but since I knew my mom passed away a long time ago, and since my dad never dated anyone during the time of my childhood, those dreams of having a sibling eventually went smaller and smaller. But now I am over the moon. I am going to be the best big brother ever. So I promised my dad and my new mom that I will always be there. And if they need any help during her pregnancy and all that, well, I would tell them that I will be there for them. At any time, just let me know by calling me and I will be there. So yeah, everyone, this is the story how I get a new young stepmom. Thank you all for listening.